Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to give you the most up-to-date information when it comes to travel restrictions into the United States. As you know, with embassies still working on a limited capacity, immigrants still have issues processing their documents. Also, immigrants have issues with boarding airplanes with expired documents because they're not able to renew visas or their green cards, for example. Immigrants inside the United States, unfortunately, are overstaying their visas because they're not able to travel. What are they going to do now when their visas are expired, whether it's ESTA or a tourist visa or a student visa? We'll talk about those issues as well, and solutions. And finally, both immigrants and non-immigrants that are being affected by the recent travel ban. So what are you waiting for? A lot to cover. I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody, and welcome back to our immigration channel. This is a place where we get the most up-to-date immigration news, immigration updates, and everything else that you need to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnik, and I am an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California. I help clients in all 50 states. In this video, we're going to talk about the most up-to-date information when it comes to travel into the United States, travel restrictions, and what happens when you cannot leave the United States for various reasons and now your visa is expired. So this information is based on a recent meeting with the CBP Liaison Committee and representative from the Department of State and the American Immigration Lawyers Association meeting to address those issues and provide some solutions. So make sure you watch this video to the end because I'm going to talk about green card holders, I'm going to talk about national interest exceptions when it comes to travel, and I'm going to talk about non-immigrant visas and visa processing at different embassies and consulates. So once again, make sure you stick to the end. So let's start with the green card holders, legal permanent residents. So a lot of our green card holder clients and viewers of this channel are sending us messages, emails, private messages, are concerned because they're stuck overseas, they spend more than a year abroad. And as you know, if you're a green card holder, if you spend more than a year abroad and you don't come back to the United States and you haven't applied for a re-entry permit, you're risking losing your green card upon entering back to the United States. Based on a recent message that was sent from Department of Homeland Security and the White House to all the CBP port of entry, green card holders are welcome to come back, even if they spend more than a year overseas. If you're a green card holder and you're stuck overseas and it's been more than a year, you should make plans to come back home to the United States. My suggestion, as I mentioned in previous videos, is that if you have any proof that you tried to return and you couldn't do it, any canceled plane tickets, proof as to the reason why you stayed overseas more than a year, maybe it was a family emergency, maybe it was a financial issue, take those documents with you so when you come back to the port of entry and you face the CBP officers, you have something to tell them and at least good faith reason as to why you stayed longer. Their instructions are to let you in right now. If you're a green card holder and you come to the United States and they send you back, make sure you let me know because we want to notify CBP and DHS liaison that this happened, so they're going to be able to address those issues for future reference. But once again, if you're an LPR, green card holder, you can come back to the United States even if you stayed more than a year overseas. Another thing that we learned at that meeting is that the Department of Homeland Security is working with airlines to educate them that even if they are green card holders with unexpired green cards, but they spend more than a year overseas, they should still let them board their plane and make their way to the United States. They also provide guidelines to the airlines is that their role is not to make a determination of eligibility. Their role is to let these people on the plane to come back to the United States. Another important thing is that if you're a green card holder and you've been outside the United States since the beginning of COVID, you're not required to apply for an SB1 visa, returning resident visa. Now, returning a resident visa is not a simple process. You have to go back to the US Embassy, which in most cases is closed anyway in most countries, and make a case as to why you have not abandoned your residency. Under this policy guidance update, you don't have to apply for an SB1 returning resident visa if you've been away from the United States since the beginning of COVID to this day. If you've been away for 5-6 years before COVID, that's a whole different story, and you still have to apply for the SB1 returning resident visa. But if you've been away since COVID started and it's been more than a year, you're eligible to go back to the United States without applying for any documents. Just prove that you at least try to come back to the United States. So these are great news for a lot of our green card holders that are panicking right now, not being able to come back home. And also, the government is now forcing CBP port of entry to process national interest exceptions for people that are coming back from overseas they can process those at the port of entry instead of doing this at the US Embassy. Once again, those embassies are closed, which is very difficult for people to wait for these emergency cases. Sometimes it takes weeks and months, and when it's an emergency, it's impractical for them to do so. So CBP Port of Entry are now required to process national interest exception cases right there on the spot. And again, this information pertains specifically for green card holders. Now, let's talk about travel bans and national interest exceptions. Again, in this meeting with CBP Liaison, Department of State, and the American Immigration Lawyers Association, there were some suggestions and action items that the government is going to start taking in the next few months. First suggestion is start using science-based factors to curb the pandemic, not travel bans, right? We have so many travel bans that were canceled by Biden, but we still have a few that are in place. Are they based on scientific facts? Are they based on any data? No. They just put travel bans, blocking people from coming into the United States, creating delays and hardship for families being separated. So the idea is to start using more science-based facts instead of blanket travel bans that are currently in place. So hopefully that's going to be implemented in the next few months. The next thing they discussed about is before changing travel restrictions, for example, before blocking people from South Africa or from Iran or from Brazil, give sufficient notice so people who are planning to travel or are currently traveling in those countries have enough notice to either make their way back to the United States or completely change their travel plans. Those travel bans that were announced in the past did not provide sufficient notice to travelers before they were making travel plans or they're about to travel to that particular country. So the idea is to give sufficient notice so individuals can make informed decisions before they travel, and if they're already in the country that is currently banned, they have enough time to make travel arrangements to go back to the United States. The next thing that they're going to start implementing is making the national interest exceptions more flexible. So instead of making them to one entry, they could open it to 30 days. Right now, if you get a national interest exception, you can just enter one entry. The idea is to make it more flexible. If people need to go back, if people need to travel for work, make it more flexible. Give them 30 days, 60 days. Those are things that are going to be starting to be implemented in the next few months based on that meeting that they had with the CBP and the Department of State. And I think the biggest shift we're going to see coming up soon is that all ports of entry, CBP ports of entry, are going to be able to process national interest exceptions. So for example, if people are in need to enter the United States, they're going to be able to apply for that exception right there at the port of entry instead of waiting for weeks and months to get an appointment at the US Embassy or have the embassy consider their application for national interest exception. This will be applicable to both non-immigrant and immigrant visas. And right now we can see quite a few ports of entry, like Los Angeles Port of Entry, where they do process national interest exceptions for certain travelers right there at the port of entry when people arrive. So these are some good news, and hopefully we can see that expand to other ports of entry, and hopefully we can see that expand to many, many more other ports of entry as well. So let's talk about non-immigrants, specifically people that are currently inside the United States. So one of the things that was suggested in that meeting is that CBP will have more power to revisit I-94 that was issued to non-immigrants upon entry. So when you enter the United States, you get an I-94 in the system that could be issued for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Under this new suggestion, we hope that CBP will going to be able to get more power at deferred inspection to look at previously issued I-94 and be able to extend it while the immigrant is inside the United States. So people would not have to apply for extensions of their tourist visas inside the United States. They could actually go to deferred inspection and get the CBP officer to give them more time for good reason, obviously. Another great suggestion that came out of that meeting is expanding the flexibility for non-immigrant applicants that have expired visas but have a valid petition to enter the United States with an expired visa because their consulate or embassy is closed. So for example, let's say you have a H-1B petition valid for 3 years, your visa is expired. Under new guidance, which are not yet implemented, but are proposed, you'll be able to enter the United States even if your visa is expired, but you have a valid petition. So hopefully that's going to be implemented very fast. And of course, I'll let you know when that's effective. And finally, the proposal was to waive all visa requirements for F1 students that are coming to the United States for fall semester. Again, this way, eliminating the backlog at the embassies, allowing the students to come to the United States and go to school, so not delayed, and they're going to miss their opportunity to start school. So once again, these are great suggestions, and we're going to see them being implemented hopefully in the next few months. Another suggestion that was proposed at that meeting is to allow visa revalidation inside the United States. So people are not going to be required to go back home, specifically when their embassies are understaffed, closed, or are not processing visas on a regular basis. So imagine if you already had a visa, let's say an E2 or an H1B in your passport, instead of going back home, you'll be able to get that visa reissued inside the United States at the Department of State in Washington, D.C. If that happens, it's going to help them eliminate the huge backlogs and allow less people to travel overseas when they don't need to. So this is something exciting, and as soon as that happens, I will let you know, obviously. But this was presented at a meeting between CBP, the Department of State, and the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and I wanted to present that to you as well. When it comes to employment-based visas, the suggestion was to waive biometrics for those applicants that are waiting for their visa interviews, and also waive interviews specifically in cases when there's no inadmissibility questions. So once again, hopefully this information was helpful. We talked about solutions for green card holders that are currently stuck overseas and are not able to come back. We talked about people that are currently inside the United States and are about to overstay their visas. CBP may be able to help and get their status renewed without an extension. Some good news. And finally, some solutions for visa revalidation inside the United States. Let's hope this is also going to come. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you share this with somebody that may be interested in this. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you want to talk to me, if you need help with your case, don't be shy. Text me 619-483-4549. Let's set up a consultation and let's talk about your case. And remember, guys, we have a very cool quiz at the bottom of this video. Make sure you try the quiz. It's going to talk about eligibility for your immigration process. Let me know what you think about the quiz as well. It's linked in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.